Turn on this or something, I don't know. As far as top goes, I have that. That's this little switch. I don't like the color of it at all. This one's really bright. This is super bright. It's made to light up the whole inside of the truck base. Well, at least it's supposed to be bright enough to where we can clearly see whatever we want. These are, just those changing colors. Change pick whatever color you want on them. So even the fade or whatever. They're pretty cheap. I think but this one was a little expensive. As far as inside of this, all has to be touched up, cleaned up a little bit. Got another button up here, and that's for inside of our cubby holes. And as you can see, my hand can go inside of here and basically touch the back. But that's to put like phones and other small items that we don't want to put in like the glove box and stuff like that. And here's the switch for it, and then those should go off independently. I haven't fastened the switch. I don't like the white red light. I don't have a relay on this one. The monitor works fine. I'll put the cross up. This is all going to get cleaned up okay right here. All that stuff is just residual dirt. I still have to clean up that, touch it up, finish that up a little bit. This is the wire bar thing that goes through to carry the wire, or wire cover I should say. And the back panels are done. These are the speakers. The back ones, at least the component ones here that are in. I think this is the R series Alpines. I finished up the edge of that. I put one of those port inside of there. I didn't color it or anything yet. I just hit it a couple times with my palm, and there's a little indentation here. I can run my Dremel. Such luck, huh? Yeah, there it is. Got it. So it'll slow through that. That's typically enough. Just got to get through the metal stuff that I've had to fabricate. So some metal in there. It's thin. Heavy steel is underneath. Heavier stuff. That one's done. So these are all going to stay stabilized. I have one left here that I need to put in. And it's going to be about right here. So keep an eye on the wires, of course. Cinch down to some degree, but that's going to be just fine. So that's that. think everything else is gonna be okay. Alright. Now before I make my last connection, I'm gonna make sure these are the right length. They're not. There's plenty of room here because I only have this little short run to go to. But in the meantime, before I do this final connection, I want to test it. So this is my ground that goes to the chassis. And here's my strippers here. I have the other kinds. I have quite a few different strippers. Kind of like these. As long as you get the right size die for the right size wire. These are called dies. Not a big deal. So I'll twist these together. And twist that with the ground. Alligator clamp. It's already grounded to the chassis, just right here. One of my bolts. Positive terminal. Another alligator clip. Stick it in there. Let's see, so basically it's a test fit here. The wires that I had repaired don't seem to be. This is called a wiggle test basically. And you wait for wires to jump around or anything. Even like this, it isn't doing it, so I think I'm gonna be okay with all of this. Doesn't feel like it's in there tight enough. So the test fit on here with the lights and everything seem to be okay. Let's see here. If I can see the dials alright. That's just the 1/4 channel lamp. I can see the back alright. This one here, I don't know if this camera's going to get close enough, but basically I put this bolt and stud and everything not only to hold the gate, but I had to make sure that when I put the amplifiers in that there was no rubbing. And also, if I look closely, I can see that it's not going to be a problem. I will be fastening the input line here, and I think that's going to be just fine. There's not going to be any problem with that whatsoever. Both the ground, the positives, ground and positives here are going to be just fine too. There's plenty of room in between here for that angle to come in. From underneath I should be able to see everything okay. Yep. As you can see, that amplifier way in the back there, right there, right there. There should be. It looks like I got about 2 inches. Everything has enough clearance. The lighting underneath there looks good. The amplifiers look okay. We can also have some ambient light for our cubby hole here, and that's part of the reason why I put that metal around here, is I didn't want anything falling inside of there substantial, shorting anything out, and that's not going, it's not going anywhere. So so the seat tips up, and I can look up from underneath or from above as well. And switch works good, and on and off and on. So that's what I've been working on for a while now. So maybe get that end about like that. You know that it's going to be about the right size. So you take about this equal amount, go around to the other side of the table, or wire, and then I can see that I need to take about that much off. leave it about here. Have to feed it through just a little bit from this direction, loosen it up, and slide the shielding back just a little bit. About this much, so if I cut it about right here, it's going to be pretty close to where I need it. Right about there. Thing is that this sleeving will expand and contract to some degree, and by just laying it out next to the wire, you're not going to be able to get a very good measurement because it can get really small, as you can see here, or it can get really wide, like this. So, taking into account the diameter of the wire versus the expansion of this and the length that you need, sometimes it's better just to do it by eye, unless you're really good at math and you love to do math, and, you know, have at it. And again, about another, maybe 1/4 inch, not that much. As long as you cut a little at a time, it'll be okay probably. Won't be off by that much. And that looks about right. I have cutters of different various types. That's about right to go into the trim out piece that I have. The wire looks pretty good still. Feed it through here, making sure that the entire piece goes underneath this boot, and the wire itself will go into the barrel. So you gotta kind of watch both things at the same time. Many times if you back this off a little bit first, feed the wire through like that. I'm crimping these, I'm not soldering them. I could solder them, but I don't think it's necessary. Most of the wires are soldered in the audio system. These are not. Making sure that it's all the way in there, goes enough. Good hard crimp. Smash together. Feed the cable, or the shielding around the cable a little bit, like this, slightly overlapping the shrink wrap. I think the shrink wrap has the glue and or some dielectric grease already in it. So it can hold a little bit of pressure. It will essentially push itself into the shrink wrap here. So take some more slack out of it. I'm just squeezing it with my hands, sliding it. See it expand a little bit here. Yep. And now it's going to kind of push its way into this boot. Shrink wrap, I mean. You want to get it as far as you can underneath the shrink wrap. This little cable, this little strand, I'm just going to cut off. Hopefully it'll go in there all the way. It is. Before you shrink wrap it, might as well give that a good tug. And be able to visually see the shrink wrap become clearer and also start shrinking. Yep, it's okay. Being that this one's positive for the speaker, I want to boot it. and go about the end of the terminal, then we go a 1/4 inch past this shrink wrap right here. It's just another level of protection. Also helps stiffen up the cable in that area. Shrink wrap. This has a glue in it. This type of shrink wrap is much heavier duty than the wrap this over the top of it. So there's that end. This end I'll terminate once I get it connected to the amplifier. And this one here has to go to this terminal. It's a dual voice coil mid bass, so both voice coils have to be running, otherwise you'll damage one of them. Probably damage the speaker. And then when I put these two together, I try to keep in mind that I need to trim this off a little bit with the razor blade and this other area with the razor blade, so that when they're pinched together they kind of bind themselves together nicely. So I will trim this off at an angle here, probably 30, 25, 20 degrees, whatever. If you like math, you can figure all that out, but it's about right. This one here. Trim about the same degree. Down to the middle piece. Right there. So now when these two come together, they're going to almost be perfect as far as the angles go, and once I tighten it down. It's always better to put the screwdriver into the screw first, and then hold it with your index finger. Together. Yep. I'm looking closely at the connections to make sure it's metal on metal. There's no plastic in the way. Hanging on to both of the speaker wires. Kind of snug it down, get it tight enough so it doesn't come off. That's the positive of this speaker done. I'll run this out of the way, leaving this terminal open right here. I don't remember if it's called either a ferrule connection or if it's got a bayonet or something like that. I don't remember which one's on the back of that amplifier, but the ferrule connections are like this. Essentially, you just put this over the end of the stripped wire, and then this small nickeled copper sleeve goes into typically where you would just cut it and shove the wire in there, but the little strands of wire will cause problems. It's just not a very good connection putting bare wires into. So I try to use the ferrule connections if that's what it requires. Ground cable, or ground wire. Again, it's not perfect surface copper long grain copper or anything. It's just basic, decent speaker wire. Not cheap, not expensive. Other speaker wire in the garage that I could use, but this is going to be totally sufficient for what I'm using it for. So it's inchworm this all the way in again, just like I did the yellow one. And then you want to inspect it just to make sure it's bound on there really good. Shouldn't move. There's glue in it. The plastic, whatever this shielding is made out of, isn't damaged. I already know I need to trim this off right here. And with the ground here, I know I have to trim this bottom half again, just like I did the other one. Yeah, I miss sometimes to cut myself. That's very true. Yep, looks good. Put the two together just to see. This one needs to be trimmed off just a tad more. Just a little bit. There we go. That looks good. So, index finger to make screwdrivers with little clamps on the end of them. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're two little spring clamps that'll clamp around a screw like this. I have one, a couple of them actually. I just don't need them. Don't need to use them. This works just fine. And then flip with the magnet, because the magnet wants the screwdriver and the screw. Make sure it's straight, perpendicular to one another. The screw's going in right. The square piece here, you don't want it to clock on you or to turn, then it won't go all the way on. Paying close attention to making sure everything's going to be tight. You don't need them too tight, but you want them to hold. Take the positive and negative leads, grab my ohm meter. And what I want to have out of these two is a 1.9 ohms rating. So what I'll do is I'll shove this negative terminal into here if I can get it in there. Yep. And then touch positive wire with the positive meter, ohm meter, and see what we have. It's 2.0 ohms in this one. The other's 1.9, so this meter probably isn't. Yeah, that's the 1.9 amps I'm getting now, so. Yeah, 1.9. Today I'm going to start connecting some of the ground circuits that I had to work on.
I noticed that this thinner shielding here isn't any good and I don't like it, so I'm cutting it off, which is really easy to do, like so. This I don't like at all. I think it's more for cosmetic reasons and gives you some level of protection, but it's really very thin and it stretches, and so I'm not going to use this on this cable. I'm going to be using some heavier duty shrink wrap, which I like this stuff a lot. I had finished this one up, but I didn't like the boots that were on it, so I'm going to change this. So I'm going to remove the tape that I put on here. I might just leave it. These are all soldered in here, and so these are very good connections, and it's nice heavy AUG wire. It's a good strand count in here and everything, so it's going to carry the amps just fine, or the amperage just fine. I'm going to remove this other piece of very thin shrink wrap here. So again, this will be for the ground strap that's going to go to the grounding block, and you can see inside of here that it's good and solid. It's fully soldered, so I'm not going to have a problem with that whatsoever. This boot is a bit too small, so I'm going to remove that. It's about time I get this little project done here that I took on. So again, I try to pull this as tight as I kind of can to make sure it's snug against the wire, and then it's going to kind of go around the outside of this, and then I can shrink it on there basically. This will have a memory to it, so once I pull it a little bit tight, it's going to have a pretty good memory, so I'm not going to have to worry about it loosening up. It's a little hot, so definitely warm enough now. Again, I'll go just a little bit past where I need it, and I would say maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so. And you can always trim it off afterwards if you have a little bit too much, but it's kind of hard to add more. So it's always good to have a little extra for trim it off as you need it. So I just put this on here for now. I'm not going to fasten it yet because I still have some work to do with this area here. We're in here, that hole right there I'm working on so that this will fit. This is one of the ones that will also go into the vehicle. This one here, this tube here, contains the wires that go to the arc electronic ignition. Circuit, which will help charge or will share the voltage with this start battery in case this start battery goes dead or drains or something for a parasitic draw or whatever. The reserve battery in the back, called basically a home battery, will transfer the power through this battery and give you enough starting power in case there's some kind of a problem with parasitic drains or a bad battery or something like that. So it's just an extra level of security so the vehicle can start. I can add more batteries to it. I do have more batteries. I just don't want to run into all of that circuitry at this moment, but I'm ready. You know, everything that I'm doing here is just going to be able to plug and play another battery once I get it, or if I add more batteries to it. So that's pretty much what I have to do, is get that hole, and then I have to I have to run this heavier AUG wire here. This here is a 4.0 AUG 10 terminal. Is that this one? This wire here is going to end up feeding through this area right there, and then the other section, which will be right here, this other larger piece here is going to be run up to the alternator, and this one here will be for the starter. And as far as starter cables go, you don't want to use audio type wiring for high current electrical wiring. It still will work, but some wires are made to actually carry the current for a starter, which is higher current, and it's heavier copper strands. The wire here is made by Taylor, and it's specifically made for just connecting to the starter. This will last a really long time, and it will be reliable because it's a good product, and it's also well protected. So when this is plumbed up, it's going to come in through here, through this area right here, and this one's already been done. This one here goes also to the starter, and it's made out of the same wire. It's made by Taylor as well. Connected to a switch, and that switch is going to shut off the starter. And as you can see, the hole isn't quite right yet.